Right. I think it's another wonderful evening on the prairie. And the prairie blazing star, this is the prairie blazing star, is just in glorious bloom. Uh, we're filming this actually at Ken Shaw's place on that Route 66 Prairie. And part of the reason for that is that we do have some sound problems. We got some very busy highways out there, Route 66 a little bit, but mostly I-55. We'll probably deal with it in the future. And we do have Blazing Star out there, as a matter of fact, at the Route 66 Prairie. We do have this one. It's not as abundant this year. It's because we didn't get it burned. It makes a huge difference. Ken does get, it's by his house. He gets a fire on this on a very regular basis. That makes a huge difference. And it's not only that fire makes a difference for the sake of the plant. There's another big reason. These things have a little bulb-like structure underneath the ground. And if you don't burn them, the field mice, the voles have a field day. And we got tons of them at Route 66 Prairie. With fall burns, which would have been when most of the prairies would have burned years ago, 200 years ago, more than a few years ago. Um, you burned in the fall, and as the fall migrating raptors would come through, they would clean up a little bit on the voles. They were hungry, and they'd float over the prairie very low, the harriers and some of the owls, and they would reduce the vole population, which was good for the blazing star. And so we have lots of blazing star potentially. We got, I think, 4 different kinds over there. And the season essentially starts out with the prairie blazing star as we see it here. Uh, and it's just, again, one of those delights of the summer. The other thing that's quite dominant here, and we do have a lot of that Route 66 prairie, and that's the false indigo, one of those wonderful plants that I love because it's got the false name in it. It's baptisia. For me, it's just baptisia. But gorgeous. At one time, it was actually a dye plant. The true indigo, by the way, is a more higher quality dye plant. That's for blue jeans and other clothing long ago got its color from. It was a dye plant. By the way, these are legumes that put nitrogen in the ground, and they really do stand out at the Route 66 Prairie. They're still in pretty good bloom. And here they are largely past bloom, although I still see a few P-shaped blooms over here, the very last ones over here. Um, and they're having a very good year, lots of seed. They're probably not palatable to the field mice and the voles because they've been doing real well uh, at the prairie, at our prairie this year, unlike the blazing star, which are a little bit in a hiatus this year. So those are two dominant plants here. Um, and interestingly enough, this is an area where other plants almost seem to be lacking. There's a lot of prairie drop seed in here. There will be a lot of prairie gentian in here later on. There's a green milkweed over here, which is always an interesting plant. Green milkweed, one of our many milkweed species. But it also shows the diversity of the prairie habitat. Not everything looked the same, neither during the season, but slight difference in the soil, slight differences in moisture, sometimes great differences in moisture make a difference. Here's one of our rye, of our wild rye. one of our grasses, many grasses. Here's one of our sedges, porcupine sedge this would be, and scattered through here. Blooming real soon is grass leaf, the goldenrod, and we have lots of goldenrods. Here's another goldenrod right here. The interesting thing about this goldenrod is it's a common one, but it's forming galls. And they're tiny little critters that form these galls. And very often in the wintertime, when the leaves are gone, the galls will stand out, and the woodpeckers know that there's a tiny little insect inside the gall. So they'll peck these galls open and get themselves a nice little snack for whatever season of whatever it is. So lots of different things. Like Susan is present here, and it's of course a very common prairie plant. Rosinweed is present here, and of course it's another one of our common yellow, many yellow flowers. Gray-headed coneflower. I like gray-headed coneflower. It's gray-headed before and after it blooms. When it's in pollen, the pollen is actually dark purple, some other color. But then later on, they'll be gray again. And the interesting thing about this is the seed, later on when it's dry, you can rub it and smell it, has a nice fragrance to it. And there's several plants out on the prairie that have that feature, that they have nice fragrance to it. Diversity is really the key word for prairie. You know, we think of, oh, it's all grasses and a few flowers, but even out here, there are probably 50 different kinds of plants out there very easily, maybe 100. Okay.